Hello, my fantasy friends, and welcome once again to another edition of the VFL Fantasy Week Recap. Recapping week 2. I don't know what kind of accent this is, nor do I really care, but I want to welcome you all and say thank you. Thank you for joining me. This is Reno, Nevada. That's where I be today, flying all over the place. It was fun. Woke up this morning and saw my flight was delayed by like 3.5 hours, so I got to sleep in a little bit. So ain't complaining there. But I want to welcome everybody back again. Another fun week of fantasy football. It was an interesting one because I went to actually the Cardinals game with Quit Playing with Your Peckler with Paul Voida, and really didn't have an opportunity to sit and overanalyze the games, which was kind of nice. You go to a football game, you get to watch it, you get to experience it, the craziness, the mayhem, and trust me, that game delivered at every aspect of those words. And then you come home and then you start really looking at your scores and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, I was trying to look at my scores and whatnot while I was sitting in the parking lot for an hour and a half, but everybody was zapping the shit out of the 5G, so I couldn't really tell what was happening. But that being said, we're going to stick to kind of the usual game plan. I'm going to go through the scores from this week, and then we're going to hand out some awards, and then we'll preview the week 3 game of the week. I know my connection says it's fairly good, so I'm sure if you're watching this, as I see no one is watching along live, nor do I care. As long as you watch it eventually, cool. But I'm staying at a Marriott Courtyard in Reno, Nevada, and apparently the Wi-Fi signal is stronger if you're at a Hampton Inn, Vegas. Gotta say, though, I mean, you look at the aesthetics behind me, this room is so much better than a Hampton Inn. I got to tell you, everything so far in Reno has been better than Vegas. I got a car, didn't smell like smoke or weed, although they didn't give me a car. They gave me a minivan, which is kind of interesting. Walk outside. It's nice outside. Oh, fuck. So nice to step outside and have it be nice. But let me get away from that. Let's get into some scores. I need to make a drop for this, like, here's your scores or something. So maybe I'll work on that. But as we go through, we'll take a look at, first and foremost, I want to start with the game that we had as the game of the week. And that was Thwomp versus the Big Waller brand. These were the only two teams that were undefeated and facing each other coming into week 2. And Thwomp held true to his name, thwomping the Big Waller brand by a score of 192 to 129. Inversed those last two digits there. You look at the sacks in the city, Brad's wife versus my wife, 134 to 79. Whew doggy. That's a score there. One less digit on the Chubb City side. You look at Cruising to Last playing Ditka's Bastards. Cruising to Last is now 0-2 as he drops a game to Ditka's Bastards, who go 1-1, 143 to 114. If you can't read, I don't know why I'm saying these. I should show the graphics. It's not like it's an audio podcast. You had the Diamond Dogs losing to Beat by a Girly 167 to 104. That drops the Diamond Dogs to 0-2, and it makes Beat by a Girly now 2-0 in her debut in this league. The Battle of the Voidas, Paul versus John, me versus my brother, 168 to 146. I am now like 5-0 against Paul in fantasy. So Paul, who had a great year last year, lost to me 3 times. And lost to me again now. So, Paul, suck a dick, bitch. Next up, you have TB12 and the Legend of 8 Rings defeating True Blue 2-0. Or he's now 2-0. 144 to 137. 0-2 for True Blue. But a really good game this one was. And, oops, that's a preview. And now I think it's time to hand out some awards. Give out the hardware, if you will. And you know what? I'm going to bring in another little guy here. Hey, look, it's Paul again. Paul, what's going on? Are you muted?
Hey. Sorry about that.
What's going on? You're just hanging out in a parking lot, randomly looking for children?
No, not doing that, John, but I love the imagination.
Doesn't take much to imagine with you. Oh, you're getting ready to drive home.
I was just at a bar.
And now you're going to drive. I'm glad I got this live on YouTube.
I stopped to have one beer. Cheese. After
cheese?
Work. Anyways, I ran into, just now, Tyler Fredrickson.
I have no idea who that is.
Oh, he was in your grade. Anyways, whatever.
Well, how about we dish out some awards, huh?
Sure.
So I'll tell you that I put this list together this morning in an Uber while heading to Sky Harbor, and this Uber smelt literally like a wet rag. Like
Ew.
a rag that you wipe down tables with multiple times a day, and then you leave in your car for like 3 days, and then it's got like that moisture smell. That's what this Uber smelled like. So I did not say one word to this gentleman.
Mildew smell?
It was very mildewish.
Ew.
But yes, so that's where I put together this week's awards. So let's start at the top with the Big Dick Award for the team that scores the most points in a week. And this one goes to Thwomp. Anthony Pauletto's team, 192 points. That's the top score thus far this season, averaging 21.3 points per player. And he was led by the guy who essentially wins him the Mike Tyson Award for the team with the player who scored the most points this week. And that is, once again, Thwomp. That's Derrick Henry. 53 fucking fantasy points. 53. Jesus, 182 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 6 receptions for 55 yards. And that's the crazy thing. Derrick Henry, 6 receptions, 55 receiving yards. That's 11 points simply from his receiving, not something he's really known for, right, Paul?
Not at all. But I will say, 53 points. Aaron Jones is right behind that. You know, there's a lot of running.
He only had 40, though.
True.
That's what's crazy. Aaron Jones, who I had 4 touchdowns, 3 of them receiving, 1 rushing, and he ended with 40 points.
You know, I watched, so obviously since you and I went to the game because we're special guys, we didn't get to really watch all of the beginning or the early games. So I had to go back and watch the highlights, which honestly is sometimes more fun because you get to watch play-by-play without all the commercials, the talking, all the other stuff. A game really is only about, just a couple, what is it, 60 minutes long. So
that's correct.
Yes. But anyways, they also cut out a lot of the crappy plays. Anyways, I was watching that, and Derrick Henry, after watching Arizona just completely stuff him, it was amazing to see. He didn't come out super strong like right away, but then Tennessee was stuttering again, and I was kind of surprised to see that. I thought that they would come out and be quite well, and then Derrick Henry just took over.
Well, that's normally what he does. Is he's a guy who just like wears you down.
He's the Yeti.
Yes, he wears you down, Yeti.
Well, so he comes out in the wintertime.
Yes.
He's always that late guy. And
yes.
You couldn't ask for a harder start for him when apparently Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt and our team was just we really didn't like the Titans,
Yeah, it's just crazy how much they had him involved and how weird it was for Tennessee, a team that was down 15 points. Yeah. They just stuck with the run, and ultimately it's what equated to their success.
I can't believe they won that game, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. I really needed it for the fucking parlay too. Thanks, C. Cox. If they had won that, I would have won like $100.
2 yards from Aaron Jones to win the over. Because I put a big bet on him. Because I'm like, if I'm going to lose to John, at least I'm going to be happy about it. Because I honestly thought I was going to lose to you. I mean, Aaron, even if we were even, I thought I was going to lose. And then there was, I think, 12 minutes in the game. And he had 67 yards. And I was like, he's not going to come back in the game, is he? And nope, he sure as fuck didn't. I'm like, anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to segue.
No, that's fine. Well, let's go on to the next one. Now, remember, 53 points for Derrick Henry. Let's dish out the Little Bitch Award for the team that played like a little bitch and scored the least amount of points. And that goes to Chubb City. Oh, poor Shannon. And she had a total of 79 points. 79 points. Derrick Henry had 53 alone. And Shannon had 79. She's pissed.
She's got more people in the hospital than fucking COVID.
Yeah, she I mean, Tua Tagovailoa went down like instantly at the beginning of the game, just like last week when it was Mostert. And like, I feel bad because like Shannon's in the other room. You and I are getting ready to go to the game. I'm like, Shannon, you're starting quarterbacks out. Poor thing.
I know.
And like he might play again. It's a bruised rib, but like, do you really want to go get Jacoby Brissett and start him? Now, that being said, she has a backup of Zach Wilson, but he threw 4 goddamn picks this last week. So,
I thought didn't she start Zach Wilson?
No, she started Tua. He got 0 points.
Well, no, that's still okay. I will say this: you'll get a better game out of Zach Wilson than him against the Patriots.
Yeah, and a better game from Dak Prescott too. That's the other thing that killed her is Dak didn't do shit for her team. And that being said, like she probably wouldn't have beat Sax in the City. They scored 134 points. I'm not saying 2 quarterbacks. If they both got 30, you add that up, and it's closer, but it's still there's some holes in her team, and she's got to figure those out now. So
this is what happens with when you have a double quarterback league. So this is the only double quarterback league I've ever done. I think it's probably the only double quarterback league, maybe not probably, but that a lot of people are doing. So it's so different. And this is what happens. You get one injury to a quarterback, there's nothing on the waiver for you, except maybe that guy's backup. So the fact that she has a backup is great. Because what if you don't?
She can get in there. She can get in there. Matthew Lissy just commented in the chat. He said, 0-2, but get ready for some Justin Fields. Yeah, he's the guy who drafted Justin Fields. He's been waiting for him. He's going to get his wish. Oh, he's got Rondale Moore too?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to Matthew. We'll get Matthew into the Diamond Dogs here in a bit, okay? Let's bring up the next award, huh?
The Bullshit Award for the team who had to deal with a little bit of bullshit.
So the team that had to deal with a little bit of bullshit is quit playing with your Peckler. And here's the reason why. Why do you think you get the Bullshit Award this week?
Because I had to play your stupid ass.
That's part of it. But the primary reason is your team scored 146 points.
I know, I saw that over
8 other teams scored less. There's only 3 teams that could have beat you, and I was one of them, and I happened to beat you.
To go out and trade Amari Cooper and get within 2 games, the top yardage.
Yeah, Derek Carr has that's a great draft pick by me, by the way. I picked Derek Carr, and then I used him to get Amari Cooper from you, who didn't do shit for me this week. And you now have, through 2 weeks, the guy who is leading the league in passing yards. Go figure. Oh, the NFL, it's a fucking crazy place.
It's a fucking crazy place. Derek Carr all the way.
All right, let's dish out the next one.
The Brass Balls Award for the ballsiest decision of the week.
So this one I'm handing out to the big Waller brand, Bradley Boddington. And I said, this is what I wrote down. And again, I wrote this at, early this morning while in the back of a wet rag Uber. I said, it takes Mondo balls to sit Hollywood Brown, especially when you have Lamar Jackson. He burned him this week, which means he'll probably start him next week because he scored like 25 points, which means Brad will start him next week and he'll score 6 points. Now, that all being said, he got thwomped, so it didn't matter. But it's the one thing I noticed while I was watching Sunday Night Football. I'm watching that game. I know that Brad has Lamar Jackson, and Hollywood Brown's having a great game. And I look, I'm like, oh, man, Brad sat him. We have a double flex league. Like, you think he'd still start Hollywood.
It's tough with Hollywood. I didn't have Hollywood last year, and think
I'll never have him
because of how. But I will say this: this might be maybe. I still don't trust Lamar Jackson's passing enough to where I think it will be, but it could be Marquise Brown's year that we thought it was going to be last year.
You're definitely right. Again, I'm not a fan of Lamar Jackson because I just don't trust his throwing consistently. But if he is going to throw it consistently, typically it's Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews he hasn't been the go-to this year. I feel like a lot of teams are starting to double him and take him away, and Hollywood is showing up. So, it was a brass ballsy decision by the big Waller brand, just simply not to start him this week. And for that reason, I gave him that. We have no Forrest Gump award this week. That makes me smile. I don't like handing out that one. That's typically for some jackfuck who didn't either show up to the draft.
2 in a row. I got 2.
Yeah, or somebody who just didn't start their lineup. So we'll go with this one.
The 4-Leaf Clover Award for the team that got luckiest this week.
And this one, I'm going to go ahead and dish this out to Brian Carter's team, TB12 and the Legend of 8 Rings. The reason I did this is because he escaped with a 7-point win over the team that won the Little Bitch Award last week, True Blue, and it was the closest game of the week. And it came down to TJ Hawkinson for Carter. I mean, I had Hawkinson last year. I know that guy's a machine, probably the most underrated tight end of the top 5 tight ends. It's generally like, Kelsey and Kittle and God, there's one else out there who's like Mondo, and there's like Mark Andrews typically falls in there.
Kittle. Just piddling out there.
Yeah, piddling and kittling out there. He's not doing well for your team. This is your opportunity where you can try to tell somebody why they need Kittle, and you're not doing a good job so far.
Hate him. I love him. He's the best, and you should get him. So
give me a call. All right, let's hit the next one here. Hit the little thing, John.
The Put Me In Coach Award for the team that sat the wrong player.
Yeah, this one goes out to Matthew Lissy and the Diamond Dogs. Now, remember, just a couple minutes ago, he said 0-2, but get ready for some Justin Fields. Well, he sat Henry Riggs, who had 28 points. Yes, 28 points. Riggs. I'm thinking Lethal Weapon.
Yeah,
and Rondell Moore, who had 30 points. That's 58 points that Matthew sat on his bench. He was beat by a Gurley by 63 points, so it probably wouldn't have mattered, but it's still just painful when you look down at your bench and you see that many points. Again, kudos to Matthew. He has the number 1 waiver wire pickup of this week. Rondell Moore is already on his team, just like I had Eli Mitchell last week. Like, we have some pretty instinctive players on this team or in this league, so those Mondo free agent pickups aren't even out there. And anything to say, Paul? It's hot in the car. Is that what you said?
No, I said you're getting too old for this shit because you said Riggs. Get it? That's another Lethal Weapon.
Oh, that's a good one.
No, what I was going to say was what's funny is if you listen to any fantasy podcast, which I'm sure we all have our own fantasy podcasts we listen to, or we listen to them all like I do because I'm a psycho. But all they do is talk about players we all picked up last week, except for one who was dropped last week, which I won't mention. But and they don't talk about him this week because they talked about him last week as well.
Yep.
And it's just funny because like you see all these guys being named, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like so far, the only guy worth pick. Oh wait, no, that's my other league. I was gonna say is Danny Dimes, but obviously he's not even available in this league. But that's it. They're all. That's just how quickly when you're playing in a league where people like look ahead and know what they're talking about, or not know what they're talking about, but know enough. Like your waiver wires, just like they just.
But that's what's fun about it, though. And that's why I like this league, and that's why it's fun so far.
That get injured at that point, and then like who wants to? Do that? That's like betting the unders.
Yeah, life's too short to bet the unders. I don't know. I like it. So what fantasy football podcasts do you listen to?
I can't tell you my main.
Yeah, you can. Who gives a shit? I listen to like a lot. I'm on flights right now. All I do is listen to fantasy football podcasts.
There's one podcast, and the funny thing about it is I have told you about it. I've told you about it multiple times, but it only comes once every year, and we all have our own thing. But there's a guy that I really like. I think you'd like him, though you might find him pretentious. But then again, I kind of find him all pretentious. But is Jay Seeley, and what he does is he's on the Pat Mayo Network. And
okay.
Do you know Pat Mayo?
Nope.
So Pat Mayo is this Canadian guy who I find hysterical. He used to annoy the shit out of me at first, but then he grew on me, and I like him. He's a giant gambler, and he puts out videos for everything, for fantasy golf, like DFS. I'm probably going to start watching more of his videos now that things are legal here, because he does the spreads, he does everything. And on Tuesdays, so I'll go home, and I plan on watching this, he does a one-on-one with this guy, Jay Seeley, who works for The Athletic, and I'm sure you're familiar with The Athletic.
Uh-huh. I subscribe.
I like Jay Seeley. I think he's really smart. He was big on Montgomery when a lot of people weren't. You saw what Montgomery did for me last year, at least in my other league.
Yep.
What did I have him in? Oh, it doesn't matter. But I did have him, I think.
I don't know. The story's going way too long. All you had to do is say the answer.
Well, I rambled. That's why I don't do this.
The Projections Award for the team that looked at what NFL.com predicted they would do this week and replied,
Yeah, Paul, you'd be great on a podcast. But like I'm trying not to make this too long because I'm trying
to. Rambles all the time.
Yeah, I know. That's because he's a professional podcaster. And I have a podcast about the Phoenix Suns, and you could come on it and you can talk, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Anyways, the Fuck Your Projections Award. I'm going to hand this out to True Blue because I realized something today. The majority of the time, would go to the Big Dick award winner because every team is like projecting 130. If you score 190, obviously you kill it. So I'm going to change it up. And I'm going to go True Blue because Jameis Winston had a great week 1. He was projected to have 18 points this week, and he only had 9. So... But I do got to say this. This is my real quick shout out to Jameis Winston. I just want to thank him for throwing an interception this week. Yeah, it was probably the highlight of the weekend for me. You were there. It was the last
fucking game that we went to right after.
Well, obviously outside of the Cardinals game, which was fantastic. Right before we left, I had placed a bet on both Zach Wilson and Jameis Winston throwing a pick. So we watched one last play before we hopped in the truck and went out to the stadium, and that was the pick, and it was fantastic.
That was awesome. And it was funny because you were in the bathroom. Obviously, he's too old for this shit, so he's got to take a piss before we leave anywhere. Smart, old. But anyways, and we're sitting there, and I'm watching the Saints get the ball back, and I'm like, well, this is the fucking perfect situation for Jameis to throw that pick that John's been talking about all morning. Because Zach Wilson threw multiple,
the first play of the game.
Was he the player that threw 3 in 3 plays?
No, that was Joe Burrow.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. Anyways, and then you came out and it was like, well, let's hold off for a second. Let's not leave. This is the situation we want. And before we can even finish our sentence, he's not only like getting slammed to the ground, but he's just hucking it up there. And what did you say? You're like, huck it up, or like
huck it up, yeah, something like that. And then I danced because I won money off of it. Oh, I love gambling. Let's go to the.
By the way, I can tell you the bet on
the game of the week. All right, the game of the week next week. Now, if you look at next week, we actually have 2 games that feature 2-0 teams playing each other. The first of which is Thwomp is playing Beat by a Girly, and TB12 and the Legend of 8 Rings is playing.
I'm a lead farmer, motherfucker!
Playing the Lead Farmers. So I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to go the Dime Dogs versus Cruising to Last. These are the 2 teams that are both 0-2. The loser of this game will be 0-3. And I know it's a longer year this year. There's 14 games, and anything's possible. But 0-3, man, that's a tough hole to dig yourself out of, just mentally. You know what I'm saying, Paul?
I wouldn't know. I've never been there.
You fucking. I'm 0-2 in my big money, but we won't talk about the other league because no one wants to hear any of that shit. This is my reminder to all of you. Make sure that you do your free agent acquisitions tonight. Throw out your fab there because tomorrow morning is when waivers process. Looking forward to talking. Huh?
It's not Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday morning is tomorrow.
Oh my God, it's fucking. You're right.
Yes, I am.
What day was it?
Yes, I am. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, everyone who's watching along live or watching this later, I appreciate you hanging out with me here in Reno, Nevada. And I will be live from wherever the fuck I am this time next week. So until then, good luck, and remember that I am.
I'm a lead farmer, motherfucker!